The Singaporean government is killing creativity. On October 7, 2025, the Ministry of Education, responsible for the education and school administration in Singapore, announced and rolled out a change to the secondary school art syllabus: the integration of artificial intelligence into art. To get into specifics, students may use AI tools for ideation and concept development, while the actual hands-on process must be done by the students themselves. Students may opt out of using AI, while students that do use AI must declare their usage. It is also to push for real-world relevance and local context to reflect the influences of societal perceptions. So a total of 140 schools were affected by the change. And for a sense of scale, there is approximately 160 secondary schools in Singapore, that being about 87.5% of secondary schools. Now pause. Before I go any further, I want to make this very clear. I am not anti-government nor pro-government. There is no intention to add divisiveness between myself, the Singaporean government, governmental parties, ministers, and the Singaporean people. I am simply stating facts that have been researched by yours truly and adding my own perspective as someone who works in the creative field and people around me. I am not here to have debates about who I voted for in the past elections, the brain dead takes of if I can do a better job, why not I be a minister, or any of the typical backhanded comments made when confronted with legitimate criticism. If there is genuine and factual criticism of me and the facts thrown forward in this video without any forms of attack, I would love to talk to you about it and have a dialogue. Now with that out of the way, I pose a question to the Ministry of Education. Are you kidding me? You're allowing students, the youth, the future generations of Singapore to use AI for something as culturally relevant as art. Now, as a 3D animator, this change, this purposeful decision hurts not only me, my peers and colleagues in creative fields, but the Singaporean culture that you and the rest of the people in the government speak about constantly wanting more of. I'll break down what I said earlier about the changes into sections and expand on why this change in the syllabus harms not only art, but creativity as well, more than it possibly could, as well as setting a bad precedent for future generations. First, students may use AI tools for ideation and concept development, while the actual hands-on process must be done by the students themselves. Now this is the real, documented, summarized creative process in art: ideation, concept development, experimentation, execution, reflection, and presentation. This syllabus change cuts the first 1/3 of the creative process, the most important parts of art. Ideation, in more layman terms, inspiration, is the bedrock of art. To see something and get inspired to create is what drives art. Allowing AI to do the inspiring for the student does nothing but make the student start thinking that the creative process is nothing more than typing in a prompt and creates shallow thinking. The students may continue with the actual hands-on work, but there is no pride nor any learning process, hell even any benefit in following something given to you by a system that homogenizes everything around it. This isn't like math where numbers don't lie. Art is subjective, but what isn't subjective about it is did someone use AI or not. Second, students may opt out of using AI, while students that do use AI must declare their usage. That's a great step, but here's the thing. Kids lie. All the time. Now they did mention that process documentation will be taken a lot more seriously, where students are supposed to review all works in between each given time frame, and there are now AI detection softwares implemented in schools. I respect that a lot. The dedication to try to build some nets in an attempt to catch people from pushing the boundary too far. But there is nothing stopping students from using AI to generate whatever they need, simply copy it, and then claim they did not use AI for any of the artistic process steps. Now, do I think every student will be out there doing that? Obviously not. But there will always be people who try to toe the line, and I do not expect our overworked, underpaid teachers to be able to catch every single student doing whatever they want. Thirdly, it is also to push for real-world relevance and local context to reflect the influences of societal perceptions. Now, AI has been pushed locally and globally to be this amazing tool that can and should be used for the greater good of humanity. And most times I'd agree, but where does the buck stop? I'm someone who works in the creative field, and my job is constantly threatened by AI with photos, videos, animation, music, deepfakes, even films being generated daily. There's even a goddamn AI actress. A friend of mine lost their job as an engineer due to AI removing the need for testing, monitoring, and coding. Another friend lost their accounting job from AI just by doing all the calculating and bookkeeping. Here's the real societal perception of what AI is. AI has directly impacted people's livelihoods, rather than it being used to enhance them, sometimes for the better but more times for the worse. And the harsh truth is that the downsides greatly outweigh the good at this point in time. AI has been used to cut corners and costs to save the people at the top of the food chain a little more dollars of their already hefty paycheck. constantly willing to screw over the people who are trying their best to live day to day. There's always that topic of places constantly hiring but no company actually hires. This is one of the reasons why, because AI already takes most of these opportunities away. The two examples of friends I made, they aren't like me chronically online, they have actual outdoor lives, hobbies, enjoyments that stray incredibly far from the internet other than the occasional TikTok and YouTube. They didn't understand why or how they lost their job, and it had nothing to do with them needing to upgrade themselves, they just did. If anything, there is a very high likelihood that someone lost their job in this duration to make this video due to AI. And on the side of AI art, it's just straight up theft. It actually steals hard work from real artists who toil day and night, putting whatever soul they have into what they want to create, and it just gets yoinked without consent. It's the same thing as your colleague Deborah stealing your PowerPoint slide from the office. Now I'm gonna go sicko mode and say what's on my mind. You people in the Ministry of Education and via proxy, the Singaporean government, are hypocrites. You speak of wanting culture and hopes to push the Singaporean way further through arts and heritage. In fact, I am quoting Mr. Edwin Tong, the Minister of Culture, Community and Youth, a speech he made on the 21st February 2025. Or should I talk about in 20th August 2025, Mr. David Neo in the Patron of the Arts Award ceremony, talking about how there's a growing appreciation for arts and culture among Singaporeans, and even noted that over 75% of Singaporeans agree that arts and culture give a sense of belonging. But you turn around and decide to stab artists and the artistic process in the back. The arts and culture in Singapore are looked down upon in Singapore by their own people, and if you think that it's not, you are living under a rock. Look at any online post discussing the arts in Singapore and you will find comments like these. More common than the minnow bird. Hi, Editing Crow here. I actually meant to say the myna bird, not the minnow bird. People like this is what's wrong in Singapore. And if you say shit like this, you are scum with no other thought for yourself and your petty ego. Now, if we take the example of the Reddit thread on r/Singapore about the art syllabus change, the general consensus of the change is negative about how this new syllabus is actually pushing creatives out of their field. In fact, if you just do a little bit of research, you will find posts about how there is a massive want and need for the arts in our country. It's just not supported well enough, or is treated as a joke or a waste of time and resources. Now, of course, I also have to be fair. It's important to note that the intention of the policy and the policymakers are not evil and ill-intentioned. I firmly believe they do see some values with AI, and to be very honest, I do see some benefits of AI in the creative process that I will touch upon later. These measures taken to follow up the structure of Singapore, which is going deep into AI, thus benefits Singapore economy and growth as a whole. However, let us not take things that one-sided, as it does take not only creatives but standard white and blue collar workers into the mix of things. So I think the policymakers are onto something. It's just misguided. They do want to streamline the tedious process of art, but let's not get it twisted. The true intention is not to take over the brain or hands, but to assist the actual workflow, which are very different from what's being presented right now. One is utilizing a system to generate and give you a product that you can use at the start and you may or may not build upon it, while the other gives you help in terms of checking for errors, giving advice for say something immensely complex like color theory, composition, perspective, rule of thirds or fifths, or even shapes and forms at the beginner's level. Only after having a good fundamental base can the person doing said art start branching off to do even more extreme versions of art. The difference is one is giving an answer and the other is assisting with the process to get an answer. In the more advanced field, say game development, because it's kind of the only thing I understand well enough to talk about, in my previous video on Lost Soul Aside, I spoke about how game optimization is incredibly tedious and difficult. Now I do want to say, game optimization is the unsexiest part of game development. It is tedious, it is lengthy and it is relatively thankless, but it is necessary. This is what AI should be used for. The parts of a game that are incredibly unpolished, that already have a predetermined set of functions that need a touch of improvement that can be done by a system. It shouldn't be just about making the creative process smoother, it should be how it can be smoother. So I do firmly believe AI has its own users in the creative field, but I do not subscribe to the belief that AI is the future. Humanity is the future, we are the future, and we will always be the future. AI is a part of us, and it should not take over things such as arts and culture, or in fact anything that will cause someone to lose their livelihood. This is the only thing that separates us from being mindless drones endlessly consuming whatever shovelware is shoved to our faces. So going back into the insane hypocrisy of allowing AI into schools now, in June 2025, Nanyang Technological University penalized students that use AI generative tools in their assignments. There were also reports of said usages in Singapore Management University, National University of Singapore, and Singapore University of Social Sciences. There is a prevailing problem with AI being used in schoolwork and with some of the young adults in this era. And you want to what? Give the children some inkling in their mind that AI is actually a good tool to use to cut corners without properly understanding what they're supposed to be studying? And keep in mind, these are only the students that got caught. How many do you think didn't get caught? I cannot understand that if there's already a problem with cheating and integrity problems in young adults with AI in supposedly a controlled environment, why increase the risk? The acknowledgement and encouragement to use AI into a syllabus does nothing but normalize its uses. I'm sure you guys know this saying, the path of least resistance. The human condition is always to take the path of least resistance, especially in high-stress environments. And in school, it's pretty rough. So you give the youth the option to cut corners with AI. When they grow up more to a tertiary or university grade, you just expect them now to respect the rules of a school and not use AI to cheat their way through? Ask yourself this. Would you trust anyone of any job or task if you knew their certification and qualification was from cheating? Now, I believe the most beautiful pieces of art come from passion and inspiration. I'll give you an example. The most beautiful building I've ever laid my eyes upon is the Notre Dame. In my youth, I had the privilege to travel all the way to Europe on a whirlwind tour of that part of the world, and I still remember my absolute shock and awe at the craftsmanship on display. And before I wrote this script out, I had talked to someone about our favourite buildings, just some small talk, nothing serious. Among all the types of the buildings we have encountered, we've both concluded that the most beautiful types of architecture we could think of 9 out of 10 times were buildings of worship and reverence. Now, I am not religious, not at all, but the people who built and painted these stunning buildings centuries ago were. They had respect for their beliefs, a passion that what they were producing was to show themselves, the people, whoever and whatever they were worshipping, that they had a reverence for and what they believed in. They were inspired by faith and the imagery of something as simple as written word. Be it Christianity, Buddhism, Shintoism or Islam or many more, it all came from a place deep within. This push for AI completely removes that deep-seated feeling of passion and wanting to continue creating culture. These two art, side by side. One is AI art, and the other is a top-tier sloppy internet meme. But I have more respect for this than whatever this crap is, because this was actually drawn and made by someone who was passionate and inspired to make something fucking hilarious, and it prevails as a top-tier internet meme because it developed culture. For God's sake, the Singaporean government even gave its citizens $100 worth of credits to use under the SG Culture Pass for us to try to be in tune with the Singaporean way, and I like that move a lot. But why decide to turn the other cheek when it comes to physical art at youth? That will probably blossom to culture given proper care and nurture. But when I mean culture, I don't mean physical works alone. I mean architecture, music, acting, theatre, films, photography, video games, anything that takes someone with that feeling of inspiration and passion to go a step further beyond. So I was recently at the Art Natural History Museum of Singapore with someone, and although that really wasn't my kind of scene, if I just peel back my bias, I can look at it as a very impressive take on the creative ways Singaporeans look and produce things. Among them is a fossil of the Malayan, the national personification of Singapore. Something completely fictional but brought to life due to someone's passion for the arts. I will end my video with this. Without any intervention from the Ministry of Education or the Singaporean government, if AI comes for me as an artist, if AI comes for someone as an engineer, if AI comes for someone else as an accountant, AI will come for you too. So this isn't the kind of video I usually make. I don't really like politics nor want to engage with it. To be honest, I'm not sure why this was the one that broke the camel's back for me, but yeah. I just wanted to maybe spread the word, get people educated, put my feelings out there. I know for a fact there's a lot of people out there, artists or not, who have had their lives tossed and turned around by AI. And maybe that's why I felt so invested to make this video, because the truth of the matter is I have been unemployed for quite some time now, but I have been working freelance gigs to try to keep myself afloat while going to interviews and doing art tests. I recognize that making a video like this may affect my chances of joining any company in the future as well, but what can you do about it? I really would like stability in this field, but Singapore just doesn't really allow it because it's looked down upon, entry jobs aren't actually entry jobs, and there's now that prevailing problem with AI. In a weird way, I hope that some kid who wants to get into the creative field, when he grows up, doesn't get screwed over by the lack of opportunity like myself, or like some people who have watched this video. See, I'm just a guy who tries his best, and more often than not, my best isn't enough. But I like to think that if given an opportunity, I'd be able to do something. That's all I want to do. Something.